In the heart of Nigeria lay the small village of Obom. Life in Obom was simple yet vibrant, colored by the laughter of children playing in dusty streets and the rhythmic beats of drums during festive nights. Among the villagers lived a man named Okwudili, known for his jovial nature and his tendency to find trouble more often than luck. Okwudili always seemed to have a mischievous glint in his eyes, whether it was his knack for stumbling into amusing predicaments or his habit of telling outlandish tales. Okwudili had earned a reputation as the village jester. One particularly warm evening, as the sun dipped low behind the horizon, Okwudili found himself at the center of a gathering outside the village tavern. With a gourd of palm wine in hand, he regaled the villagers with exaggerated stories of his imaginary exploits. "I tell you," he declared with a wink, "I once wrestled a crocodile barehanded in the river, only let it go when it promised to bring us fish every day." The villagers chuckled knowingly. Okwudili's stories were the stuff of legend, more entertainment than fact, but they loved him for it, for in his tales they found escape from the rigors of daily life. As the night wore on and the moon rose high, Okwudili's laughter echoed through the village. Few noticed when he staggered away from the revelry, guided more by the stars above than any clear sense of direction. Lost in his thoughts and the warmth of the wine, he wandered deeper into the outskirts of Obom. It was there, beneath a canopy of ancient trees, that Okwudili's wandering led him to an unexpected encounter. A rustling in the underbush caught his attention, and in the dim moonlight he glimpsed the unmistakable shape of a lioness. Fear gripped at his heart, but instead of fleeing, he found himself frozen in place, mesmerized by the creature's presence. The lioness growled softly, her amber eyes fixed on Okwudili. In that moment, all the bravado drained from him, leaving behind a trembling man clutching his nearly empty gourd of palm wine. "Shoo!" he exclaimed weakly, waving the gourd in what he hoped was a threatening manner. But the lioness did not attack. Instead, she paced back and forth, emitting low, plaintive sounds that tugged at Okwudili's heartstrings. He noticed a peculiar limp in her gait, as if she carried a burden. Summoning a courage he didn't know he possessed, Okwudili edged closer, his movements cautious yet determined. As he approached, he saw the reason for the lioness's distress. A small cub nestled in the tall grass, whimpering softly and kicking its hind leg like there was a problem with it. In that moment, the maternal instinct of the lioness kicked in, and she pounced on Okwudili, using her claws to scratch his chest and causing a wound. Okwudili let out a loud scream and quickly shouted, "I just want to help your child," while pointing to the cub. The lioness immediately backed down, as if understanding his words. Though in pain, he approached with outstretched hands. "Easy now," he murmured soothingly, as if speaking to a frightened child. "Let me see what's wrong." With trembling hands, Okwudili examined the cub's injury. He had stepped on a piece of metal that pierced into his foot. Drawing on instincts he never knew he possessed, he gently pulled the metal out and nudged the cub to walk to make sure he was okay now. The lioness watched his every move, her gaze filled with a mix of apprehension and gratitude. When Okwudili finished, he patted the cub gently on the head. "There now, little one," he murmured, marveling at his own audacity. "You'll be right as rain in no time." As if understanding his words, the lioness emitted a soft rumble, almost like a purr. It was a sound of thanks, a recognition of kindness shown to her injured cub. With a final glance at Okwudili, she nudged the cub gently with her nose, and together they disappeared into the darkness, leaving behind a stunned and bewildered man. The following morning, the village of Obom awoke to an astonishing sight. There, near the outskirts where Okwudili had ventured the night before, was Okwudili, standing with the claw scars on his chest. Villagers whispered excitedly among themselves, speculating on the events of the previous night. Okwudili, for once in his life, found himself at the center of attention for a very different reason. As word spread of his encounter with the lioness and her cub, the villagers hailed him as a hero. "Okwudili the lion slayer," they exclaimed, clapping him on the back and pressing him for details of his daring feat. Unable to resist the allure of the newfound admiration, Okwudili spun a tale that rivaled even his wildest fantasies. He embellished every detail, from the ferocity of the lioness to the cunning of his escape. The more he embellished, the more the villagers hung on his every word, eager for a hero to rally around. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, but the legend of Okwudili the lion slayer only grew stronger. He basked in his newfound respect and attention, reveling in his role as the village protector. Yet deep down, he knew the truth, a truth he dared not reveal for fear of losing the admiration he had come to cherish. Years passed, and life in Obom settled back into its familiar rhythm. Okwudili's exploits became the stuff of legend, recounted by storytellers around the communal fire and celebrated during festive gatherings. He found himself regarded not just as a jester, but as a guardian of the village's peace and safety. But fate, as it often does, had a way of testing even the most elaborate of illusions. One hot afternoon, when the air shimmered with the promise of rain, a ripple of unease spread through Obom. Villagers whispered of a new threat, a lion, larger and more fearsome than any they had encountered in recent memory. The news spread swiftly, igniting a spark of fear in the hearts of even the bravest men. The elders convened, deliberating on the best course of action. "We need someone to face this beast," declared Chief Obu, his voice grave with concern. "Someone who can protect our village." Without hesitation, all eyes turned to Okwudili. "Okwudili the lion slayer," they cried, their voices a chorus of hope and expectation. "You must save us once again," they said. Okwudili felt a cold knot of dread settle in his stomach. His mind raced as he struggled to reconcile the legend he had unwittingly created with the reality of his own limitations. He knew nothing of fighting lions. His encounter with the lioness years ago had been nothing short of a miracle. Yet, as the villagers looked to him with unwavering faith, Okwudili found himself unable to refuse. With a forced smile and a pounding heart, he accepted the daunting task laid before him. "Fear not, my friends," he declared, trying to sound confident. "Okwudili the lion slayer will not fail you." Armed with a little more than a makeshift spear and his wits, Okwudili ventured cautiously into the wilderness. The sun beat down relentlessly, casting long shadows across the parched earth. Every rustle of the wind, every snap of a twig, set his nerves on edge. Hours passed in tense anticipation, until finally he spotted the lioness, a magnificent creature. Okwudili's resolve faltered as he realized the enormity of the challenge before him. This was no tale to be embellished or exaggerated. It was a perilous reality, demanding courage that he wasn't sure he possessed. But before he could retreat, the lioness turned towards him. Recognition flickered in her amber eyes, followed by a glimmer of something deeper, an understanding born from a distant memory. Okwudili held his ground, his hands trembling around the spear. "Easy now," he murmured, echoing the words he had spoken to the lioness's cub years ago. "I mean you no harm." To his astonishment, the lioness did not attack. Instead, she approached him cautiously, her movements graceful yet cautious. She sniffed the air, her gaze frequently shifting from Okwudili's face to the scars on his chest. It was then that he noticed the faint scar running across her muzzle, the same scar he had seen on the lioness he had helped so long ago. Realization dawned on Okwudili like a thunderclap. "You," he breathed, his voice barely above a whisper. "You remember me," he said. The lioness emitted a soft rumble, a sound filled with both relief and gratitude. She circled him once, her tail flicking in an almost playful manner, before turning back towards the wilderness. With one last glance over her shoulder, she walked off into the forest, leaving Okwudili standing alone with his thoughts. When Okwudili returned to Obom, he was greeted as a conquering hero once more. The villagers gathered around him, eager for tales of his confrontation with the lion. But this time, Okwudili spoke with quiet humility, sharing the truth of what had transpired. "I did not slay the lion," he admitted, his gaze steady. "But I faced her, and in her eyes I saw recognition. She remembered me as the man who once helped her cub." The villagers listened in silence, absorbing his words with a newfound understanding. They realized that Okwudili's courage was not born from prowess or strength, but from compassion and empathy, the very qualities that had endeared him to them all those years ago. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the village of Obom, Okwudili stood before his fellow villagers, his heart lighter than it had been in ages. "Sometimes," he began, his voice carrying over the hushed crowd, "it's not the size of the fight, but the size of the heart that matters," he said. The villagers nodded in understanding, their admiration for Okwudili deeper than ever before. They realized that Okwudili might not have slain a lion in battle, but he had faced fear with compassion, and in doing so, had earned a different kind of respect, a respect that transcended tales of bravery and spoke to the essence of humanity. From that day onward, Okwudili continued to live in Obom, his days filled with laughter, storytelling, and the occasional teasing about his encounter with the lion. But he wore his title of Okwudili the Lion Slayer with a newfound humility, knowing that true courage lay not in feats of strength, but in acts of kindness and understanding. Did you enjoy the story? Please comment your thoughts below. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.